Today, I want to share with you a statistic that I came across from research being done at the Greater Good Center at the University of California in Berkeley. And the statistic is that only 10 to 15% of adults in the United States maintain a regular gratitude practice. Now, the most interesting part of this statistic to me was over 90% of the people who did have a gratitude practice reported that they had improved sleep, improved mood, improved relationships, and improved sense of overall well-being. So that was pretty amazing. And in a world today that sometimes feels heavy, perhaps a gratitude practice could help you regulate your nervous system. I know that when I was going through the darkest days of my post-traumatic stress disorder journey, gratitude was a practice that absolutely changed everything for me. So I can't wait to bring this to you today.
Hey, it's Maria Brown. Turn the volume up now. We're dialing in your day from the inside out. Regulate your nervous system. Let's go. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel the rhythm. Oh, from stress to steady, watch you listen and grow with Maria Brown on the Mind Body Flow. Regulate your nervous system.
Welcome back to Regulate Your Nervous System. I am Maria Brown, and I'm so grateful that you are here. Today, we're going to talk about gratitude. This is a very personal connection that I have with gratitude, especially as we move into February and everybody's talking about Valentine's Day and hearts. Well, gratitude is at the center of my heart. So I want us to go into our own hearts and think about gratitude. In 2020, I suffered from severe post-traumatic stress disorder from an event that happened with my son. And around 2 years later, after I had totally reinvented my life, I left a career that I loved, only I was a changed person. So that wasn't the direction I was going in. And I moved into this other direction. And my friend Maria said to me, she said, if you had to say or nail down the one thing that really helped you shift and come out of those sense of overwhelm, the anxiety, all of the negative thoughts in your head. She said, what is the one thing that you could say really helped you through this journey? And I had to think about it because there were many different modalities that I had come across through this journey. And when I thought about it, I said, Maria, the one thing that really kept me grounded was a gratitude journal. Said I didn't know any of the science behind gratitude. I was just so happy that when I woke up that I got a little bit of sleep, and I never had experienced anything like that in my life. And I had this little notebook next to where I was sleeping, and I would just write down, like, I'm so grateful I got a couple of hours of rest. I'm so glad that my mind was able to turn off those thoughts. I'm so grateful I didn't have night terrors last night. I'm so grateful to be breathing and that I'm in this place in Oregon that was along the beach that I was staying at in order to find myself again and try and figure out how to get the anxiety down. And then after very long days, at the end of the day, I could find at least 3 things, if not 5, that I was truly grateful for in that day. And so I would write them down. And I would think about those things as I was trying to go to sleep because sleep was really hard to come by. So today I'm going to share with you some of the things that I've learned over the past 5.5 years about gratitude and some of the practices that really helped keep me grounded. So I'm going to bring you back first to 2020. I was on a leave from teaching high school science research and from teaching at my adjunct professor position at a local university. And I was so dysregulated, I just couldn't function. And I certainly couldn't be around students. So I left Long Island in the middle of COVID and got on a plane where there was 5 people on the whole plane and flew out to Oregon and stayed near my brother who lives in the Cascade Head Bioreserve. I rented a little teeny cabin on the beach, and I had just finished surgery. I was in a cast for 10 weeks during COVID as well, and was just learning to walk again. But I was filled with so much anxiety and all of these thoughts in my head. It's like I couldn't stop the racing. I couldn't calm any part of my nervous system down. And I knew from my background, being in nature is where I needed to be. Only I didn't realize I was walking into the rainy season in Oregon. Anyway, I found that at least walking on the beach, walking through the bioreserve, sometimes it took 5 miles to get my nervous system a little bit regulated. Sometimes it was 10 miles. Sometimes it was 12 miles in a day. I would just walk and walk and walk, but being in nature was really soothing. And in those moments, I was filled with gratitude that I had the opportunity to take this leave and take care of me and just be in this magnificent forest and along these beautiful beaches. And I would reflect on those moments on the beach, in the forest. While I was hiking, I would journal and write down things that I was grateful for. And on the days that I was really stuck, I would reread what was in my journal from the prior days. At that time, it was before I was introduced to breath work, so I didn't have breathing techniques as one of my tools in my toolbox. I had nature and I had journaling. I did tapping and I listened to binaural beats at night so that I could fall asleep. And when I did come back to reflecting on Maria's question, all of those things were really important. But the one thing that really kept me grounded was the gratitude journaling. So over time, this became a regular daily practice, one that I have not given up even to this day. Within that first year or so, I really started to ask that question, like, what is it about gratitude that helps your nervous system regulate? Why is it that I was feeling less anxious, that I was starting to get longer periods of sleep? Why was it that those racing thoughts were starting to diminish? And I started doing my research. So I came across Dr. Robert Emmons, and he is a psychology professor at the University of California, Davis. And he's one of the leading experts in the world on gratitude. So I have here one of his books, and he spent decades and decades of doing research on gratitude, like incredible research, where he was looking at a control group that wasn't practicing any kind of gratitude practice or negativity practice. And then he had a group that was practicing gratitude, and he had another group that was looking at things that they were unhappy about. Through all of this research showed that consistent gratitude practices, I'm going to read right from his research, lowered levels of cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Now, I know that when I was in the darkest stages of that PTSD journey, my cortisol levels were through the roof. And if you've ever seen anybody on a cortisol level high, I mean, you blow up, your face blows up, like you're bloated everywhere and you can't sleep at night because literally the melatonin levels can't get high enough to help you sleep when those cortisol levels are spiked. So that was one of the things he showed. He also showed improved heart health and heart variability. So when we're really anxious, we have a very low HRV. But when we're relaxed and we're in this rest and digest mode and we're in this happy place, we have a high or elevated HRV, which is where we want to be. He also showed that there was better sleep quality. Well, that makes sense. Your cortisol levels drop, then your sleep quality goes up. And stronger immune function and increased emotional resilience. So that I experienced firsthand. From a neuroscience perspective, he says gratitude activates regions of the brain associated with emotional regulation, right? The amygdala, our fear system, gets suppressed when we practice gratitude. And also the prefrontal cortex, which allows for us to make good decisions and have clarity and focus. And I slowly started to see all of those things improve. So as I went back and did the research, this made more and more sense to me. And the other thing that he said is that it also increases those key hormones, serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine, and those are our happy hormones. And those slowly started to increase in my body as well. You can feel the difference from when you're on this cortisol high and a low in dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, and then you can start to feel it shift. Because I remember not even being able to smile. Like it was such an effort to smile. And then all of a sudden, like within a year, literally 1 year made such a huge difference. And I was a completely different person. So in simple terms, he says gratitude helps calm the fear centers of the brain and gently re-engage the parts responsible for clarity and perspective. I love that. Now, the interesting thing is that I noticed over time, gratitude was literally a wake-up call for me. Within less than a year, I was beginning to look at some of those really dark moments and the events that had happened in my life. And I was able to look at them from a place of gratitude. And that was an incredible healing piece in my journey. When I started to see that nothing was done to me, it was done for me in a way, and that I could really be grateful for the lessons, for the things I learned about myself, for the things I learned about other people, for the things I learned about boundaries and protecting my energy. I was able to start to find how to come from the heart, from a place of gratitude to these darker places that I had just been through. So that was literally a wake-up call. And of course, I got even more curious as I was going through this healing journey. I'm listening to Joe Dispenza and I'm reading some of his books. And he always does these really early morning meditations. And I'm like, okay, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Gosh, I don't want to get up, but he says it's really worth it. So I'd start to do that and learned over time that during that transitioning period in the early morning hours to the time that we wake up, that there's this really sacred space of a moment where your mind is so much more receptive to emotional susceptibility and creativity. And I want to say like almost new programming for your brain. And that's why doing a gratitude meditation early in the morning or just gratitude or even now breath work is so powerful in the morning because it really changes the frequency in the way that you show up in the day. And what I mean by that is if you wake up and you're anxious or you've coming from a place of fear, you're just like, I got bills to pay. Like you're starting in this low energy frequency mode. And if you just stop for a moment, settle into this place of gratitude, it changes your frequency. You're in this rest and digest mode. You're in this very, very calm, grateful state. And there are frequencies for fear and resentment and doubt as opposed to love, joy, gratitude. So when we are operating from a place of love and joy and gratitude, we have this higher level of vibrational energy. But when we're coming from a place of fear or lack, we're coming from this very low frequency place. And I like to show up in high frequency. Another thing I learned about is this cortisol awakening response period. And it occurs 30, 35 minutes from when we wake up. And what happens is in the morning hours, our cortisol levels normally start to rise. They rise because of energetics. We need energy. We become more aware. And depending on that level of frequency that you're at in the morning will depend on how stable your cortisol levels will be throughout the day, or if they spike. And if they spike and they continue to spike, that will lead all the way into the next night's sleep. Because when your cortisol levels are really, really high, it's hard for the melatonin levels to raise, which helps us sleep and get deep, restful sleep. And so your nervous system is basically being programmed for the day. Now, what I further learned after I did some breath work and some other modalities like sound healing and vibrational healing was that I found that that is what sets the stage for your nervous system regulation throughout the day. So through gratitude practices, meditation, breath work, toning, you can really set the way your entire day is going to go just by being mindful about what your thoughts are when you first wake up. Pretty powerful. And so I loved learning all of that information from polyvagal theory and HeartMath Institute. And what it came down to was in those early morning transitional states or stages, we have the greatest capacity to change our neural pathways. So our neuroplasticity is really, really high in that moment. And we get to retrain our brain and our body. And I love that we have the power to do that ourselves. If we know what the tools are and we know how to use them, we can change our state and we can literally create the day that we want to create just by our thoughts early in the morning. And so now I'm going to invite you to do an exercise in the morning. It takes 30 seconds, literally, maybe a minute. Just close your eyes, put your hands on your heart, and ask yourself this question. Is there one thing in this moment that I can truly be grateful for? And just think about it for a moment. And when you do that, just notice how your body feels. And you can follow it with a quick little breathing technique. And so I'm going to invite you that after you do that, breathe in through the nose for a count of 4 as your belly expands. And then exhale slowly through the mouth as if blowing through a straw for a count of 6. And do that for at least a minute or do it 5 times. And immediately that long exhale really puts you into rest and digest. It activates the vagus nerve right away. So your parasympathetic system becomes activated. And when you're thinking about something you're grateful for and you're doing that breathing, it's amplified. And then the third thing I'm going to invite you to do, because after today, you're all going to go out and get a gratitude journal, is to just open up that book, write 5 things that you are truly grateful for, and do it every single day. 5 things you're truly grateful for. And then in the evening, before you go to bed, just leave it on your nightstand so you see it. And that will create the change in habit. It'll become a ritual where you see the book, so you write in it. It only takes a minute. Write down 3 to 5 things that you are truly grateful for that happened in the day. And they don't have to be big things. They could be little things. They could be like, oh my gosh, my banana was not overripe today. I was really glad. Or it could be there was sun today, even though it was 10 degrees, but there was sunshine. So whatever it may be, just write down 5 things that you're grateful for that happened throughout the day, or 5 people, or just something that you're grateful for. And so what I'd like you to walk away with is gratitude doesn't take away our pain. It doesn't change that. But what it does is it acts as a bridge, a really important bridge from being in survival mood to being into a state of thriving, where we can shift over time by changing the chemistry in our brain, the chemistry in our body, so that we are activating the parasympathetic nervous system and having it the dominant operating system over the sympathetic nervous system. Because when we're in a state of fight or flight, when we are in that constant state, it becomes chronic stress. And chronic stress is the thing that leads to disease. So, to the power of your breath, through practices that you can do, gratitude practices, you can promote longevity and overall wellness. So before we close today, I want to invite you to stay connected. If this episode resonated with you, if you had a wow moment or, oh, I think I'm going to try that moment, then subscribe and share, follow, and leave a comment. I would love to hear from you and stay connected that way. And if you'd like to take a deeper dive into learning some mindfulness and breathing techniques that will help regulate your nervous system, I have weekly Wednesday webinars that are for free. And you can find those registration links in my link tree. You can also coach with me, or I can do workshops for your organization or place of business. I am a keynote speaker, and I would love to stay connected. So shoot me an email, maria@serenitywellnessandcoaching.com, and I will see you on the next episode. Just remember before we go that one of the greatest things that you can do is regulate your nervous system. It is by far one of the best gifts you can give to the world. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you in the next episode.
Hey, it's Maria Brown. Turn the volume up now. We're dialing in your day from the inside out. Regulate your nervous system.